Experience holiday cheer at Tanger Outlets with savings up to 70% off your favorite brands. From fragrances to accessories and the latest styles, discover the best gifts for everyone on your list. Save big at Nike Factory Store, Michael Kors, Under Armour, Coach, Polo Ralph Lauren, Kate Spade New York, and so many more. Unwrap the best at Tanger Outlets. Hundreds of brands, endless gifting options. Plan your trip at Tanger.com.
This is Talkback 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309.
This is Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM. KGVO, Missoula's news and weather station.
Hey, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Friday, December 13th. Yeah, Friday the 13th edition of Talkback. And Talkback this morning is brought to you by Phillips Janitorial with residential and commercial cleaning. No job being too big or small for Phillips. 406-260-6617 is their number. Y West Storage out at the Y on Two Smokes Way. If you'd like storage, give them a call, 406-510-0590, because at Y West they're always making room for you. Protecting the foundation of your future. That's 123 Seamless Gutters. They handle everything that has to do with the gutters, so you don't ever have to do it again. Call 406-240-2669. And also by Harrington Surgical Supply, where appointments are preferred for mastectomy fittings and custom compressions, but walk-ins are always welcome.
The views and opinions expressed on Talkback are not those of the staff, management, or advertisers.
Well, good morning once again, everyone. I am Peter Christian. That is Mr. Nick Christensen right over there. Good morning, Mr. Nick.
Good morning.
All right, and we are privileged. We're going to jump right in here. We are privileged to have with us on the phone the Attorney General for the state of Montana, Austin Knudsen. Austin, good morning, sir, and welcome once again.
Good morning, Missoula, and good morning, Nick. Good morning, Peter.
Hey, and just judging from the things that you've said, you've been pretty busy doing all sorts of things for the people of Montana, and also participating in national issues. And one of these is you filed a brief here. Well, first of all, I just want to find out how you're doing before I jump into all these topics.
Doing great. We've been enjoying the warmer weather this winter, although, being in the western side of the state, we definitely could use the moisture in the mountains and want to avoid the fires. So I wouldn't mind doing a little skiing this year. So, but doing fine.
We'll do the best we can for you. How's that?
Excellent. Send it this way.
From our end. All right. Anyway, I was just going to, one of the things that you sent was that you have filed a brief in support of gun manufacturers. Now, this is interesting, that Mexico is blaming for their gun violence. Can you enlighten us on that?
Yeah, I can. And then thanks for that, guys. So this is a particularly egregious case. If your listeners don't know, I'm a big shooter. Competitive shooter, reloader. Firearms are kind of my hobby. I pay very close attention to Second Amendment issues, and this one is particularly egregious. Mexico is a country that is basically a failed state at this point. Rampant corruption, rampant violence, some of the most draconian gun control in the world, almost impossible for a private citizen to own a firearm, and yet they've got gun violence rates that are just through the roof. And what has happened here is Mexico has come into our American courts, which, at the outset, explain to me how a foreign country can use our courts. But Mexico has come into American federal court, and they have sued a whole slew of American gun manufacturers. Now, I'm going to stop right there and just ask you guys, find me an industry that is probably more heavily regulated and watchdogged than the firearms industry in America.
Not many.
I would argue there probably isn't any, but it's certainly right up there at the top. Mexico is suing these gun manufacturers, these American companies, for their gun violence in Mexico. This is the stupidest thing I've maybe ever seen, but it's flagrant to the point of insult. But on top of that, guys, we've got a federal law already in place, been in place for almost 30 years, that prohibits exactly this kind of idiotic lawsuit. The district judge got that one right. The district judge dismissed Mexico's suit Mexico appealed it up to the Fifth Circuit. The Fifth Circuit blew the call, and they reversed. And they said, no, Mexico can keep this suit going. So this case is going to the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm leading 27 of my colleagues. We got every Republican AG in the country, which is pretty staggering, to sign on to this because it's just patently wrong and illegal.
Well, I will tell you, we're up against our first break, and one of the reasons that we love having you on the air, Austin Knudsen, our Attorney General, is because you love to take calls from our listeners. And the phone lines are open at 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309. You can also use the KGVO app to message your question or your comment to Nick Christensen, and we will get those on with Austin Knudsen, our Attorney General, when we return from this quick timeout. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Dennis Bragg with your updated weather forecast. More patchy fog in places, then cloudy and a bit warmer through this afternoon. Might see a few sunbreaks. That could help us top 40 degrees. Another system pushing in Friday night into Saturday morning with a 20% chance of rain and snow. Most of that will be at pass level, so accumulations shouldn't be much of a problem for travel. Mixed rain and snow will develop again Sunday morning, although only a skiff to maybe half an inch in the valleys, a few inches at the higher elevations.
Chris Domine is a husband and a father. Chris is an athlete. Chris is even an Ironman. But 10 years ago, Chris was facing a very different story because his kidneys were failing.
Basically, the doctor said, if you don't get a kidney transplant and if you don't do dialysis, you are going to die.
Fortunately, Chris received a second chance at life, made possible by an organ donor.
You know, your well-being changes from loss of hope to better times ahead.
More than 100 million people in America are registered organ, eye, and tissue donors. People of every age and ethnicity, because they believe it's the right thing to do. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life. Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Welcome back to Talk Back. Austin Knudsen, our Attorney General, is on the phone with us right now. And Austin, I was just relating to you that I had the pleasure and the privilege of covering the presentation by Tunnel to Towers to Wade Palmer and his family of a beautiful new handicapped assisted home in Stevensville. And there was over 100 people there, lots and lots of law enforcement represented, and the love that came over from for Wade and his family was palpable.
Oh, it's such a great event, and our Colonel of the Highway Patrol, Kurt Sager, was there. I wanted to attend that, but we had another Highway Patrol, an injured trooper, go through a little bit of a hearing yesterday. He had initially been denied his retirement. He was injured on the job. This is Trooper Jeff Gershell. Back in 2018, Jeff was parked on the side of the road in his patrol car, and he was struck by a meth-influenced individual who was doing somewhere between 100 and 150 miles an hour. And that really messed Jeff up. He suffered a traumatic brain injury, and this has just been dragging on for years. But ultimately, he was denied his employment, his retirement benefits. We appealed that up, and basically a bunch of us showed up at the administrative appeals level yesterday, and I spoke on Jeff's behalf, and thankfully the appeals board did the right thing. They unanimously reversed that decision. Trooper Gershell is going to get his retirement benefits and be a help to his family because he's really suffered some debilitating medical effects here.
A way to go to bat for him. That's awesome. Good job. Appreciate it. Looking after the people that you supervise, right? Well, we don't. You don't want to leave a trooper behind, and unfortunately, in this system, we see it happen occasionally. I don't want it to happen on my watch. And we've got troopers who are injured in the line of duty, law enforcement injured in the line of duty. We need to take care of those people like they're still part of the team, because they are. So if we can make a difference, we're definitely going to. Sounds good. Let's get to the phones. Brad has been waiting the longest. Brad, good morning. You're on with Austin Knudsen. Go ahead, please, sir. Hello, Brad.
Call back, Brad.
Yeah, please call back. And Jeff is also on the line. Jeff, good morning, sir. You're on Talkback. What's on your mind?
Hey, good morning, Austin. Good morning, Montana. Excuse me. My question centers around the recent decision by the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Texas for an injunction on filing the beneficial ownership information reports with FinCEN. The monstrosity known as Corporate Transparency Act levied that on every single entity registered with a state Secretary of State in all 50 states, including things like our little homeowners association up here. We have 15 people, about $20,000 in assets to do things like keep the roads in shape, and we have to report this to the federal government. And we had a lot of pushback among our members saying, why do we have to do this? And thank God that that it got put on hold under appeal. Where has Montana stood in appealing this despicable act of government overreach? Because, as I understand, it's likely to be declared unconstitutional. But has Montana played any part in this?
Hey, Jeff, great question. Yes is the quick answer. We have. So the Republican attorneys general, we were all over this issue. I agree. This is overreach in the worst case. Lots of Montanans have small little LLCs, small corporate entities to do all kinds of stuff and stuff just like you said. And this is just burdensome. It's probably unconstitutional. It's unnecessary. It's the federal government asking for information they don't need. So we actually participated in a sister lawsuit. Well, oftentimes the Republican attorneys general will do that. We won't put all of our eggs in one basket. We'll have one group sue in one district court, and another group will sue in a different circuit district court, and that's exactly what we did here. So my good friend Ken Paxton in Texas, he led a coalition that filed down in Texas. We actually joined the group. I think we filed in North Dakota, actually. But it was identical lawsuits. We were supporting each other in that, and Texas just ruled faster. But I think you're right. I think this is likely going to go up to the U.S. Supreme. But thankfully, for right now, the district judge did the right thing, issued a nationwide injunction, and there's no current enforcement mechanism for the IRS to make you do this. Now, I'm not going to sit here and give you tax advice on whether you should do it or whether you shouldn't do it. There's plenty of information out there, and talk to your accountant, talk to your lawyer. But for right now, the IRS has been enjoined from levying penalties on people for non-compliance.
Yeah, well, thank you for that effort, because this is just massive government overreach that I hope the incoming administration and Congress can put a quick stop to.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks for the call. Appreciate that, sir. Let's go ahead and get Brad on the line. Brad, good morning. You're on with Attorney General Austin Knudsen. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Hi. Good morning. I have a question. I know Austin has something to do with the Montana Liquor Control Board. Is that correct? I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
Liquor control, no, that's not correct. That's under the Department of Revenue. That's the tax the tax agency. That's under the governor.
What do you have to do with something to do with that or not? I don't know. Anything to do with that at all?
Well, the only ancillary duties we have with liquor, and it's very little, but I will tell you, I'm in charge of gambling control, and the Gambling Control Division has some inspectors so that they go out and they check the gaming machines and make sure the receipts are correct and make sure that they're running properly. We also will contract with the Department of Revenue to conduct premises inspections, so like of the local bars, taverns.
Sure.
Aside from that, we have nothing to do with liquor control or any of their day-to-day functions.
Okay. I'm confused, and I'm sorry. I thought that I heard at one time you mentioned you were involved in that somehow. But anyway, I had a question about a business aspect of something, and I don't know exactly who to get in touch with. So other than yes, them, but that hasn't been successful. So,
well, tell me the problem. Maybe I can point you in the right direction.
Well, my sons have a business, and they sell collectibles. And one of the things that are collectible is wine, and they have been trying to get that to be able to sell wine, collectible wine, not like you go to the liquor store type of wine or the grocery store, but collectible type wine, and they have been unsuccessful in getting any, being able to get anything done in that respect.
Are they looking? Are they looking to get licensed somehow, or to receive permission to do this somehow? What?
Yes, licensed and permission to do it. And they've been in touch with, I believe it was the Montana Liquor Control Board, but I don't know if that's the right. They're out of the country, so I can't tell you right now. But and they have been. They just tell them, no, we're not going to do anything like that. So anyway, I don't.
Well, Brad, Sure.
Go ahead, Austin.
Brad, I think you're barking up the right tree. That's at the Department of Revenue. That's the agency that does the licensing. The Department of Justice has some fingerprints on liquor licensing, but that's when it's a combined license. And we say that because it's usually like a bar that also wants to run a casino. And so they'll do a combined liquor and gambling license. That probably is not appropriate here. You know, it sounds like what your sons are trying to do. They would just need a different type of license. That still would go through the Department of Revenue. I tell you what, send an email to my office or call my office. You all the contact info is on our website. It's dojmp.gov.
Okay.
But give us a call or send us an email, and we'll try to get you with the right people and see if we can get you some customer service here, okay?
Okay.
Brad,
that'd be great.
Brad, best of luck to you, sir. Hey, we're a couple minutes past a break. Thanks for the call. By the way, on the phone with us right now until 9 o'clock this morning is Austin Knudsen, our Attorney General. And the phone lines are clear. If you have a question for Austin, give us a call, 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. Coming back right after this.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, you want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Chris Domine is a husband and a father. Chris is an athlete. Chris is even an Ironman. But 10 years ago, Chris was facing a very different story because his kidneys were failing.
Basically, the doctor said, if you don't get a kidney transplant and if you don't do dialysis, you are going to die.
Fortunately, Chris received a second chance at life, made possible by an organ donor.
You know, your well-being changes from loss of hope to better times ahead.
More than 100 million people in America are registered organ, eye, and tissue donors. People of every age and ethnicity, because they believe it's the right thing to do. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life. Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Are you looking for more in this world? Are you ready for something bigger? Then we are looking for you. The big-hearted, the bold, the messy and the gutsy. The teachers, the growers, the builders. The skilled, the sharers, the change makers. We need you. We are the Peace Corps. In more than 60 countries, we go all in and all out. We are volunteers, partners, communities, working together, living together, bringing our experience, passion, and joy to building a better world together. From tackling climate change in Mexico to keeping kids healthy in Kenya, from sustainable farming in the Philippines to education in Kosovo. We learn more, give more, share freely, and serve boldly. Are you ready to tackle the tough stuff? To go the distance to make a difference? Then we have a place where you belong. Join us at peacecorps.gov.
Hey, welcome back to Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. It is Friday, December the 13th. And, of course, this is our first a full 2-hour Friday show since the hunting and fishing shows have shut down. But we're thrilled to have Attorney General Austin Knudsen on the phone with us right now. And Skip is waiting on the line for you. Skip, good morning. You're on with Austin Knudsen. Go ahead, sir.
And thank you, Peter. Good morning. And good morning, Austin. I thought I'd call in when I heard you and asked two specific questions. One has to do with these non-lethal handguns that I think one of them is called Byrna, and there's a couple others out there that are advertised all over the talk shows. And they are, in fact, available to, I think, felons, which, of course, firearms are not. So I thought I'd ask you whether you thought that was okay, and what do you think of that kind of a weapon system anyway? And then, in addition, in this upcoming session, which is, I tend to, as a private citizen, get really involved with the issues that are out there that private citizens need to be more aware of, so that they can encourage their representatives and their senators to vote a certain way and to have their input from their local constituency for things that are important for the future of our state, such as proper funding and things that our agencies like your agency, the Attorney General, needs for the future. So would you tell us the kinds of things on your wish list that you hope that we can encourage our representatives to make available for you in this upcoming session? I'll leave it at that. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Skip. Thanks for the call. Austin.
Okay. Well, yeah, thanks, Skip. I appreciate that one, and good hearing from you, as always. I'm going to start with your second question first. So, do I have priorities for the upcoming legislative session? Absolutely. We're going to come in quite leaner and meaner than usual. There's a lot of hands out this year. There always is during the legislative session. Budget is always a concern. I'll tell you the single biggest ask I'm going to have this year at the legislature is help with retention of law enforcement. And what do I mean by that? Well, we all know it. The price of living is up. I don't have to tell anybody in Missoula that. You folks all know that. Property taxes are up. Cost of groceries up. Cost of gasoline is up. We feel that in state government, too, and the Highway Patrol troopers especially. What I can pay for a salary to a Highway Patrol trooper is set by the legislature. And unfortunately, it's pretty low. We have a really hard time keeping Highway Patrol troopers. I have a hard time recruiting Highway Patrol troopers. Now, here about 6 months ago, I did give an $8,000 per year raise, and we did that with budget that I already had, but we're capped at that. And frankly, I need the legislature to step up and help me with that, because we really are hemorrhaging troopers, and it's just because we can't pay them enough. They can't afford to live in Missoula. They can't afford to live in Bozeman. They can't afford to live even in Kalispell and Helena. So that's my single biggest ask. Another one, Skip, we don't own a firearms range. I train, roughly 180 new police officers every year at the Montana Law Enforcement Academy. These are people that we trust to carry a gun and if necessary, use it and use deadly force. Right now, those cadets get, at best case scenario, 5 days on an outdoor range training. It's a pretty ill-equipped range. Sometimes it's snowing, sometimes it's icy, sometimes it's 20 below. You don't get your best firearms training when you're trying to survive the cold weather. So we are talking about trying to fund a dedicated firearms range that actually belongs to the state out at the Montana Law Enforcement Academy. So those are probably my biggest asks. You asked about those non-lethal handguns. I mean, what do I think of them? I guess anything's better than a sharp stick. In the hands of a felon, well, that's obviously a problem, but I don't think that's covered by state law. And actually, our felon in possession of a firearm law has been struck down by our state Supreme Court. So that's another problem that we have at the legislature that they probably need to take a look at and fix.
All right, with that, we're up against another break. We have Steve waiting in the wings for our next call. We're going to take a break. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. Of course, you can use the KGVO app as well. And we're going to come right back. Our guest on the phone, Attorney General Austin Knudsen, and he is here specifically to take your phone calls. So if you have a question for Montana's top cop, that would be our Attorney General, give us a call, 721-1290. We'll be right back.
Dennis Bragg with your updated weather forecast. More patchy fog in places, then cloudy and a bit warmer through this afternoon. Might see a few sunbreaks. That could help us top 40 degrees. Another system pushing in Friday night into Saturday morning with a 20% chance of rain and snow. Most of that will be at pass level, so accumulations shouldn't be much of a problem for travel. Mixed rain and snow will develop again Sunday morning, although only a skip to maybe half an inch in the valleys, a few inches at the higher elevations.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, you want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
We are the keepers of the wild. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving the natural landscapes that define our nation. Nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters. Together with firearm, ammunition, and archery manufacturers, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. For more information, visit OutdoorStewards.org.
Welcome back. This is Talk Back. It's the Friday, December 13th edition of Talk Back. Peter Christian here. The questions to take in your phone calls this morning. Our guest on the phone is the Honorable Austin Knudsen, the Attorney General for the state of Montana. And waiting on the line to visit with him is Steve. Steve, good morning. You're up next. What's up?
Hey, good morning, Austin. Thanks for taking my call, Nick and Peter. Austin, are you familiar at all with what's going on in Missoula with the urban camping? I don't know if you're familiar or not, but the city has authorized at the direction of city council, the ability for the city to create a campsite or what will be a tent city effectively for RV campers and campsite campers and things like that. Are you familiar with that at all, sir?
Quite familiar with the issue, Steve. Yeah, so that was an issue that came out of the Ninth Circuit, the federal circuit, which Montana sits in. We were quite involved in that case. Yeah, the City of Grants Pass case, yes.
Yes, and I'm very familiar with that as well. Well, one of the things that was discovered at the last city council meeting where they pulled back on camping in parks is that, well, they pulled back a little, not really, but is that we discovered that never in 2024 or 23, is my understanding, has the shelter bed capacity in either the Poverello Center or the Johnson Street shelter exceeded capacity, which was always the city's excuse to allow for urban camping. And Mayor Davis has led this charge to make this a city code where people could camp out in the open and on city property effectively. Myself and many others believe, and you probably do too, that these folks who are doing this urban camping predominantly are drug users, fentanyl users, methamphetamine users, and that kind of criminality, vagrancy contributes to the downfall of beautiful cities like we've seen around the Pacific Northwest, like Seattle and Portland and those kinds of places where they've made this mistake and have then pulled back or tried to pull back, but it was too late. One of the things that interestingly happened on November 5th was in Arizona. Voters there by an overwhelming majority, 66%, approved Proposition 312 in Arizona, which would give property owners the right to claw back property taxes from the state and county if the homeless encampments that the city of Phoenix, predominantly in Tempe, overwhelmingly liberal democratic cities were creating, really damaging business owners and private property owners' value of those properties. And so my question to you, sir, is given that Missoula is going to continue down this path of encouraging this criminality and bringing people into our community that are doing these illicit drugs, causing a lot of harm to the environment, to the value system of our state, would you and or others in your office support a proposition, whether voter-led or legislature-led, to support something like that Proposition 312? And you may not know enough about it, but I would certainly encourage you to research it, because I know there's quite a few people in Missoula who are organizing right now to either put pressure on the legislature for a similar bill or to lead a voter-led effort to try to get that on the next ballot through gathering signatures and the like. So we're really hurting out here, sir, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. We've asked many times for your office to sue the city. The Johnson Street shelter is an example. Voters overwhelmingly voted no to the funding of those services that are now enshrined in this new shelter system we have. And interestingly, Austin, and then I'll let you go, I think a really important point here is when you look at where these shelters and these camping sites are located, they're not in the rich neighborhoods of Missoula. They're in where the poor people live, effectively, where the folks who are struggling day to day with the cost of groceries and, trying to provide for their family live. The city stuffs this criminality into their neighborhoods. In the Johnson Street shelter, the city won't even report the figures on how many police calls have been there, but we've heard that it's just exploded in criminality in and around that shelter that voters voted no against. We're hearing from hospital staff that they're overwhelmed by homeless folks who come into the hospital demanding services for insane things. And sorry to interrupt, but you get the point. Could you help us? We need help, sir. Thank you.
Steve, thanks for the call. And Austin, go ahead and tackle that if you'd like, and then we'll take a break after that. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, well, Steve, you guys got a problem over there for sure. You've got elected officials that are not doing right by the city of Missoula. That's the problem here. I'd love to tell you that I could sue them for you, but I can't. By state law, I'm not allowed to represent private citizens, and that's exactly what this is. Now, you might not agree with that, but that's a fact. That the state of Montana would not have standing to step into court and try to sue your city or your county government. And that's something I have to explain to people a lot, and I understand the frustration. They think, hey, you're the Attorney General, you should be able to do this. But I don't have any authority to call up any local governments and tell them you will do this and you will not do that. The only local official I can do that to is your county attorney. So that's just an unfortunate truth. I agree. This camping thing is a blight. Well, it's a fact that those camps bring in problems.
If I may, I've been following this pretty closely myself, talking with the various city councilors. They had a very, very long meeting recently talking about the banning, the absolute prohibition of camping on any city parks at any time. And that did pass. So if you're in a public city park and you see someone camping, report it, and the police will come and remove them. That is in statute now, at least through the Missoula City Council. And so I think they are trying to solve this problem, but it is a problem that every community in Montana has.
Well, especially in the western ones, unfortunately, and the more liberal controlled ones, unfortunately. So we helped in the City of Grants Pass case. We actually led the amicus at the U.S. Supreme Court. We got that overturned, which gave local city councils the authority to do what you just said, Peter, to outlaw this in city parks, because previously the Ninth Circuit said that they couldn't. They can now. Steve, to specifically answer your question, would I support a voter initiative? All those voter initiatives have to come through the Department of Justice, through my office, for legal sufficiency review. That's the only touch I get on it. As long as it's constitutional and it follows the statute, we're going to approve it. So it's not a matter of whether, do I like it? Do I agree with it? Do I not agree with it? Frankly, personally, it sounds like a good idea. I agree with you. You folks got some trouble up there in Missoula, and I think you voters got to do something about it. But I'd say you got to start with your local officials if they're doing garbage like this. All right. We're going to come right back. Dave is waiting to visit with you. Several other phone lines are open. If you have a question or a comment for our Attorney General, Austin Knudsen, give us a call at 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309, or use the KGVO app. We're coming right back.
Children are the greatest joy and our best hope for a better future. Friends, they are the future. But did you know that millions of kids are facing hunger every day? Food is not just food. It's energy, health, confidence, hope, and even love. Yes, love.
Thank you!
Learn more about how No Kid Hungry is helping end child hunger in America at helpnokidhungry.org.
Hi, I'm Kim Holderness.
And I'm Penn Holderness. You don't have to have an amazing race to the doctor, but you should make time for routine cancer screenings.
I schedule my mammogram and other cancer screenings around my birthday and then treat myself to lunch.
I do too, because, of course, everyone likes lunch.
The C word can be scary, but routine screenings can detect cancer before symptoms appear.
And early detection equals better outcomes.
Go to preventcancer.org to find out which cancer screenings you need.
We are back. This is Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. Our guest on the phone, Attorney General Austin Knudsen, and we do have callers waiting to visit with Austin. Dave is up next. Dave, thanks for holding. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I'm a Second Amendment person, but I question, do we need laws against these plastic guns that are untraceable? It just seems to me that they're available to anyone and everyone, and since they're not traceable, you're going to have a problem finding the person who has it. And as far as Billings, if Billings has solved their homeless problem, I would like to know about it, because certainly, as far as I know, every city in Missoula in Montana has a homeless problem.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for the call.
Yep.
Hey, Austin.
Yeah, no, Dave, you're right. Billings certainly has its problem with transients and with crime. There's no doubt about that. I wasn't insinuating it's just a Western Montana problem by any stretch of the imagination, but Sidney, Montana isn't quite the destination for transients that Missoula is. That's the point I'm making. Glad you asked the question about plastic guns, because that's a myth. And I know it's a hot topic right now because of this assassination we had in New York City, and the theory is the guy had a 3D printed gun. that very well may be, but you still have to have metal components and metal parts, including a chamber and a barrel. Otherwise, the explosion that occurs from that projectile, from that round, will detonate and literally blow up in your hand. So there's not such a thing as a completely untraceable, no metal parts firearm. That's stuff you see in TV and in movies, and it's just garbage. I mean, it's a myth. The left often uses that to stir people up and scare folks. You know, people are going to be walking through metal detectors with an undetectable gun. That's a load of nonsense. You still have to have certain components in that firearm. Even the ones that are 3D printed have to have some metal parts in them that are still traceable. So that's just a fact.
Sounds good. Let's get to our next caller. This is John. John, good morning, sir. You're on Talkback with Austin Knudsen. Go ahead.
Hi, Austin. My question is, you know, it seems like now we have these marijuana shops on every street corner, every little town that only has like one house on it. Why can't we restrict that like we did liquor, you know, like per population or, you know, and I think that's part of Missoula's problem is, you know, I'm not sure how many there are in Missoula, but it seems like there's 300, 400, 500 marijuana shops on every corner. My question is there a way that we can restrict that?
Yes, John, there absolutely is.
Thanks, John.
Montana legislature. First of all, I agree with you completely. There's way too many of these shops. I think it does create problems. I can tell you, just as the guy who's in charge of law enforcement, and, well, not all law enforcement, but a lot of it, our marijuana DUI rates are skyrocketing in Montana. We are seeing way more marijuana DUI. It hasn't overtaken alcohol DUI yet, but I can tell you we're on that track. I mean, it's increased that much. That's more time that we have to spend at the crime lab analyzing blood samples and work. That marijuana work just on the crime side has gone way up. But here's the deal: marijuana legalization is new to the state. I think it's going to continue evolving. I think you're going to keep seeing the legislature tweak it, change it, restrict it more in certain things. It's new. You know, you gotta crawl before you can walk, and I think that's where we are. But certainly, the legislature can change the laws, can tweak the regulations. I know there's some authority for counties to do some stuff, but I don't want to speak out of turn here. I couldn't tell you what exactly that is just right here as we sit.
Well, I'll tell you this.
The legislature.
Yeah, as of September 15, 2021, I just checked it out on Mr. Google. There were 57 marijuana dispensaries in Missoula County registered with the Montana Department of Revenue. Now, they're all perfectly legal, right? But that's a lot.
No, it is a lot, and you see. I mean, John's exactly right. It surprises me as I drive the High Line, drive around the state, go through a podunk little town that I'm very familiar with, and suddenly there's a pot shop. I'm not sure that's what that little town needs, but you know, it's perfectly legal. But the number of dispensaries is certainly a concern that I share. You know, the stuff going black market, we still see a lot of illegal marijuana in Montana. You make the stuff legal and you tax it high enough, you're still going to have people go to the black market for this stuff. So I think there is a place for legal marijuana, but I do think we need to put some more fences around it.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, come right back, and we still have Nancy and Steve is back for another question. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309, the KGVO app. You can use that, too. We'll be back right after this.
Hello?
Man, where are you? This wedding is lit. I thought you were coming.
Ooh, I can't. I'm in bed with the flu.
The flu? You didn't get a flu shot?
I wish I did. I can't believe I'm missing out on Greg's wedding.
Whoa. Grandma's about to crowd surf.
Grandma's about to what? What?
Man, I'll call you back.
Oh, man.
Sounds like another case of flu FOMO.
Don't get stuck at home with the flu. A flu shot is safe, effective, and you can get it at the same time as your COVID-19 vaccine. A flu shot is the best way to prevent the flu and its potentially serious complications. It keeps you protected and also protects your loved ones. Protecting our community can't wait. So why get stuck inside with the flu? Don't get flu FOMO. Learn more at getmyflushot.org.
Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Hey, thanks for joining us on Talk Mac this morning. Been a great hour so far with Austin Knudsen, our Attorney General. And Nancy is on the line. Nancy, good morning. You're on with Austin Knudsen. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning, Gloria, and good morning, Attorney General. I just want to say that I can't wait until January 20th, 2025, when deportations will begin here in Montana and across our country. This is going to help the American homeless situation. I am positive of that. But I want to tell you that we had our monthly Convention of States meeting here Tuesday, and guest speaker was State Senator Barry Usher, and he is just marvelous, and he has been working so hard for you. I love what he's doing in the Justice Department. And just to let you know, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and God's blessings in the new year of 2025, and peace and prosperity to you, because you're a good man, and I really stand by you.
Wow, you got to love that.
Well, thank you, Nancy. I appreciate that. Merry Christmas to you, and God bless you and your family as well. That's always nice to receive and hear. Thank you. Senator Usher is a patriot, good friend of mine. He's from Billings, but look, Barry's a former law enforcement officer. He served on the House Judiciary Committee. He's now going to chair the Senate Judiciary Committee. The man is just a patriot and does great work for the state of Montana. I served with Barry. We were both in the legislature together in the House of Representatives. Good man and just a great colleague that I can always count on. So glad to hear he's reaching out and doing stuff. Deportations, yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what the president comes up with. I think certainly Governor Kristi Noem heading up the Homeland Security agencies, if she can get confirmed, that's going to be a good thing. Tom Homan, as the borders are, I mean, that guy's a proven commodity. I think he's absolutely going to help us out with the fentanyl and meth crisis we've got here in Montana, because that's all coming from the southern border. We know that as a fact. So anything they can do to get that shut down, to get these Mexican cartels who are here illegally out of the country, I am all in favor for, because we are paying for it here in Montana. Fentanyl is up 10,000% in our seizures just with Montana Highway Patrol and our law enforcement in Montana. So, Nancy, you are right on.
All right, perfect. I believe Bob is up next. Bob, good morning. You're on Talk Back with Austin Knudsen. Go ahead, please.
I believe Bob is up next. Bob, good morning.
Hi, Bob.
Good morning. I have a couple of questions for Austin. We've got a situation I'm in Ravalli County, but I would imagine the situation is throughout the state. And here's what it is. We have several levels of court agencies throughout the state. One of those is the Justice Court, and then from there it goes up to your District Court and so on. At the Justice Court level, there is no accountability whatsoever that we can, if we have a situation, let's just say the judge makes a bad call, or let's say a judge decides that they're not going to allow exculpatory evidence. None of that is recorded. There's it's the only court, it's the only place probably in the whole United States that they have eliminated any audio or visual recording. So I have a real problem with that. What I'm seeing in these justice courts are these justices, or so-called justices, just taking advantage. If you read the rules, they are absolutely out of control. So I'm concerned about judicial reform. I want to know, from you, would you support a legislative effort to get audio or video, probably video would be my preference, and start recording these judges and the things that they do. we Montanans all have a right to due process. And that due process, if you go to a district court, it's all laid out very clearly as the rules of evidence. These judges, these justices...
Hey, Bob, we are rapidly running out of time. To give Austin an opportunity to answer your question, I'm going to have to cut you off. Austin, we got about 2 minutes for you to answer that, if you don't mind, please.
No, I don't mind at all. And Bob, I practiced in small town Montana. I was a private practice attorney for 10 years. I dealt with a lot of JPs, a lot of justices of the peace, justice courts. Some of them are good. A lot of them don't know the law. I mean, those are courts of limited jurisdiction in Montana. That means they can only hear very small, typically misdemeanor crimes. They can't hear most civil cases. They have no authority over real property or tax issues. So they're courts of limited jurisdiction. There is no requirement that they're not courts of record. What does that mean? Well, if you get a bad judgment in justice court and when you appeal into district court, there's no record. We call that they appeal de novo. That means you start over. The district court doesn't even look at what the justice court did. You basically go into, for lack of a better term, you go into real court where there's actually lawyers that are required to be judges. You have a lawyer, the other side has a lawyer. That isn't to say that justice courts are fake courts, but they're in place to deal with smaller things so we don't bog down the district courts with minor disputes. Sometimes justice court stuff has to go up. Would I support legislation to record that? Yeah. I don't think having a record there is ever a bad thing. That probably is a matter of resources, or at least the judicial branch is going to come into the legislature and they're going to say, oh my gosh, we can't afford that. I can tell you there's a lot of waste in the judicial branch. I'm probably the biggest critic of the judicial branch in Montana that there is. So judicial reform, I'm always in favor of that at the legislature. I think you're going to see a lot of that stuff.
Austin, we're completely out of time. How do we contact your office if we have a question or a comment for your office?
Go to our brand spanking new website. It's been redesigned. It's much more user-friendly now. Go to DOJMT.gov. All the contact is there. You can see what we're up to and how to get a hold of us.
Austin, thanks for being with us, and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, sir.
Merry Christmas to you, Peter, and your listeners.
And thank you. Okay, we're gonna take a quick break at the top of the hour here and go to City Talk. We'll be talking with Jeremy Keene, and licensed professional. We're going to be talking about sidewalks. Crime report. Well, we got to get the crime report first. Thank you, Nick.
Just so you know. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's Friday. I keep forgetting. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Talkback, 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309.
This is Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and 98.3 FM. KGVO, Missoula's news and weather station.
Welcome back, everybody. It's hour number 2 of Talkback for this Friday, December 13th. Right. If you're a triskaidekaphobiac, what can I tell you? Yes, it is Friday the 13th, and Talkback, hour number 2, brought to you this morning by 123 Seamless Gutters, family owned and operated, serving all of western Montana. Their number 406-240-2669. They're protecting the foundation of your future. Also brought to you by Y West Storage, out at the Y on Two Smokes Way. If you need storage, the number 406-510-0590. Because at Y West, they are making room for you. Harrington Surgical Supplies mission remains the same, to restore confidence and comfort into your daily life. And also brought to you by Phillips Janitorial, with residential and commercial cleaning. And of course, no job is too big or small for Phillips. 406-260-6617.
The views and opinions expressed on Talkback are not those of the staff, management, or advertisers.
Okay, welcome back. It's hour number 2 of Talkback for this Friday, and we do what we always do on Fridays. We're going to talk with the Missoula County Attorney's Office, and Chief Deputy County Attorney Mac Bloom is with us today. Mac, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Peter. Happy Friday the 13th.
And the same to you. Is that an oxymoron? Can you say that? I don't know.
I'm just wishing everybody luck today.
There you go. Go for it. Well, so tell us what happened this week, sir.
Well, Peter, we ended up charging 15 crimes. 6 of those crimes were violent crimes against persons. 3 of those 6 were family violence strangulation crimes, and the other 3 were non-family violence robbery-type crimes. We charged 3 endangerment crimes, 1 property crime, and 5 drug crimes for a total of 15, which is a little under average, which is good. Kind of the big news this week, which is really, heartbreaking and tragic, was that pedestrian fatality on Brooks and Higgins. I just wanted to, on behalf of the office, express my condolences to that individual's family and to his friends and the community who knew him. We've, at this point, notified next of kin, but have not publicly released the name. That'll be coming. But we've been working really closely with the Missoula Police Department to do a full investigation, figure out exactly what happened, and determine whether any criminal charges are going to be warranted based on the situation. I just want to caution people right now. There's a lot of people out for Christmas doing shopping, going out to dinner, spending time with family and friends. And so people just need to be really, really careful when they're driving around, when they're crossing crosswalks. Look out for yourself and others, because we have too many of these crashes, unfortunately.
Now, crossing, I believe that there was a crosswalk available, and I think did the signs say walk, or do we have to, that's all under investigation still, right?
That's still being investigated, Peter. Yep. We've reached out, speaking to witnesses, collecting surveillance video, doing everything that we can to figure out exactly what happened and what the timing was.
You bet. All right. Well, and that is a wake-up call for everyone to be extremely careful, especially during the holidays. And when school gets out, it's going to be even more important as the kids are on Christmas vacation or a holiday vacation. It's going to be even more important for us to be on the lookout for all the things they'll be doing outside.
Yeah, especially on icy roads, too.
You bet. Anything else you'd like to share with us, sir?
No, Peter, just want to wish the listeners a good weekend, and thanks a lot for your time today.
You bet, and thank you, Mac. That's Mac Bloom, Chief Deputy County Attorney for... go ahead, Nick, please.
I was just going to say, the sheriff and coroner, Jeremiah Peterson, did release the name of that deceased individual yesterday, and he has been identified as Robert Mattoon. So we did get that information yesterday, but we're still covering that story, and as we get more information, we will provide it to you.
Absolutely, and it's a terrible tragedy, and Nick will keep on top of it for you. We're going to come right back, and we do have City Talk standing by. We have Ginny Miriam, who's the program director, if you will,
communications
director. That too. Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me get you on there.
The Queen?
We say the Queen.
All right.
The Queen of Communication.
Right.
The Queen
that sounds cooler.
Of Community.
It's cooler. Well, no, just communications.
All right, gotcha. All right, and Jeremy Keene is also with us to do as well. So we're going to talk about sidewalks and all sorts of infrastructural things like that when we come back for Talk Back, which is returning right after this.
Hey there, Diesel Daredevil. Dennis Bragg with your updated weather forecast. More patchy fog in places, then cloudy and a bit warmer through this afternoon. Might see a few sunbreaks. That could help us top 40 degrees. Another system pushing in Friday night into Saturday morning with a 20% chance of rain and snow. Most of that will be at pass level, so accumulations shouldn't be much of a problem for travel. Mixed rain and snow will develop again Sunday morning, although only a skiff to maybe half an inch in the valleys, a few inches at the higher elevations.
We are back on Talk Back, and this is officially City Talk now. Ginny Miriam, Communications Director for the City of Missoula, joining us here in the studio, along with Public Works and Mobility Director Jeremy Keene. Welcome. Good to see you again.
Good morning, Peter. Nice to see you.
How are things going for you?
Things are going well.
All right. I had the opportunity and the pleasure to do a story, I think it was last week, about sidewalks, because my friend Sandra Vasica on the City Council told me what was going on, and so I kind of dove into it a little bit, and I talked with, I think the gentleman was named Rob or Bob in your office, to talk about how the whole thing goes with sidewalks. And how those are planned and how they're paid for and that sort of thing. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about the whole concept of sidewalks. We just kind of take them for granted. They're either there or they're not there. So if you wouldn't mind giving us an update.
Yeah. Sidewalks are a hot topic. We frequently hear from neighborhoods that they would like to have sidewalks in their neighborhood. We have a lot of places in Missoula that were developed back in the day before we required sidewalks when development happened. And so we're catching up, and a lot of these neighborhoods have development happening, and there's growth, and so there's more pressure to have that infrastructure that helps us deal with more traffic and more people. And walkability is an important thing. We frequently hear that people want to be able to walk to school, they want to be able to walk to the grocery store or to the park, and so providing those things is important to people, but they're hard to pay for. It's a challenging problem.
Right. Now that is a problem because people probably they see a sidewalk there. Well, it's flat. It's got a couple lines cut in it. How much could that cost? You know what I mean? And so we are woefully, if you will, unprepared to face that cost, especially when you may not realize it if you move into an area and maybe that there's no sidewalks in the area, and you've got a nice little home and you're doing great, and all of a sudden you get a letter from the city saying, hey, we're going to be putting sidewalks in, and you're going to help out. So if you could share how that whole process works.
Yeah, we estimate that we have over 200 miles of missing sidewalk in the city. And at the cost, we're able to build 1.5 miles or 2 miles a year. So this is a 100-year problem. And the way we've traditionally done this is we've shared the cost between the city, the general taxpayers. We pay for it with the road district, which is a property tax, and gas taxes. And then we assess a portion of that cost to the adjacent property owner. And so that letter that folks get often says, this is the project we're doing, and this is the cost of your sidewalk in front of your house, the portion that we're asking the property owner to pay for.
The gentleman I talked to was Ross.
Mollenhauer.
Mollenhauer, thank you. Yeah, Ross, and he gave me a great interview. So, yeah. So as we move forward, what do we do if we get that letter, and what if we can't afford it? What if whatever?
Well, I think a lot of the conversation we've had recently is who should pay for sidewalks? How should we pay for them? Because the benefit of a sidewalk in front of your house doesn't really do anything for you unless that sidewalk connects to other things. It's really the ability to walk to a place on a sidewalk that creates that benefit. So
it's not a sidewalk to nowhere.
Exactly. So just building a sidewalk in front of your house doesn't really benefit you. It's a collective benefit for everybody to be able to use it. So we've really looked hard at how do we fairly assess those costs. And over the years, City Council has gradually shifted those costs more and more to general city funds rather than individual property owners.
Wow. Okay.
And on a typical project today, what we do is probably 85% of that project is paid for with citywide funds, and about 15% is paid for with individual assessments.
Okay, and but the rest, it comes out of the pockets of the people who live there, and pardon me. So now, what kind of feedback are you getting from people, especially when they get that letter and they say, "Oh my goodness, I had no idea this was going to happen," and what if they can't afford it?
Yeah, so we know that folks have really felt a lot of increased tax pressure, increased cost of living in Missoula in the last few years.
Yeah.
So when we're asking to add another additional piece to their tax burden, it's a lot. And for some folks with fixed incomes, with low incomes, that can be a real challenge to keep up with that and to be able to stay in their home. And we don't obviously want to price people out of their homes. We want to continue to make Missoula affordable. So, looking at those two different lenses, we want walkability in Missoula. We want it to be a quality place to live, but we also want to keep it affordable. And so we really have to think about the balance between those two things.
Now, from what I understand, something really exciting has happened on Eaton Street. And I know one of the reasons you wanted to come here today was to share what's going on there.
Yeah, so Eaton Street was our project for this year. We were getting ready to bid it to construct next summer. We constructed the first phase of it a couple of years ago, and this was phase 2 for Eaton Street. And we approached it the way we've typically approached our sidewalk projects, with that funding split, about 85% city and 15% property owner. When we brought it to City Council a couple of weeks ago and to the mayor, the feeling was that we were hearing a lot from the residents about that cost, about the cost of the project being too high, about the burden that it was putting on them. And The mayor's just really sensitive to cost of living right now and really thinking about how people are staying in Missoula and keeping things affordable. And she recommended to council that we just put a pause on the program, that we take a minute to look at how we're allocating that funding and see what other options are available to help minimize that burden on folks.
How is that project going? I mean, as far as the deep dive into the different options that might be available, as opposed to here's a bill, you have this long to pay it.
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways we can go there. We have recommended a couple of changes to the ordinance that would allow folks to defer some of the higher costs of those assessments. So rather than paying an assessment every month or every year, they would be able to defer that cost until the sale of the home.
Wow.
So that would take a little bit of the edge off of paying those assessments up front, and hopefully over time the home appreciates, and when it's sold, there's a little bit more money to pay that assessment off. So we offered that for both low income and what we call high assessment properties, which are the ones that go up to $9,000, that they would be able to defer a large portion of that until the sale.
And of course, if somebody decides to stay there for 20, 30 years, the city's going to be waiting a long time for its money.
Yeah, so we have to pay that cost up front, and then we would eventually collect that on the back end with some interest. We'd like to see the same interest as we would pay if we assessed it up front, but it is a way of deferring that cost and easing the pain a little bit. So that's going to be in front of City Council on January 6th. We have a public hearing for that. They'll be considering that. The other end of the scale is City Council could decide just to fund sidewalks without using assessments. So we could go to just a citywide property tax, the road district, to fund those sidewalk programs. And that's something that I know City Council will be talking about on the 6th.
Well, we do have a caller on the line. Jeff is waiting. Jeff, good morning. You're on with Jeremy Keene. Go ahead, please.
Hey, good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, Jenny. I think there's a bit of sleight of hand going on here, because you said 85% of this is borne by the taxpayer. Actually, it's 100%, because everybody who owns a house is a taxpayer as well. So the taxpayers are funding 100% of this. And you just mentioned that maybe the city will take on all of the costs. Where's the MRA in this? The MRA has millions and millions of dollars to redevelop the city, and adding sidewalks is a form of redevelopment. You're adding part of the infrastructure that wasn't there to make it more, not affordable, but more aesthetically pleasing.
More livable, yeah.
Pedestrian, yeah. So where is the MRA in this? Why can't they fund it? They just ponied up $7 million, which incidentally is the same amount of money that the fire station levy was for. But where's the MRA in this? Why can't they fund this out of existing funds? Why would we have to put yet another property tax increase on property tax owners?
Good question, Jeremy. What do you think?
Yeah, thanks for the question. And you're right. 100% of the cost is city taxes. This is all of our money that we're talking about. And so the question is, how do you allocate that? Is it the individual property owner, or is it citywide that we should all collectively pay for these things? The question about MRA is a great one. We're able to use tax increment financing in those districts. And by and large, in those districts, we've paid for 100% of the cost of the sidewalks with MRA money.
Now, the MRA, pardon me, please correct me if I'm wrong here. The MRA is pretty much project specific. On a certain area or a certain, neighborhood or whatever, or a business like the First Security Bank the new First Security Bank building was a great project there. They helped to fund that. And so it isn't just like little tiny things like sidewalks. I would imagine, for the MRA, that might be just a little bit too small for them to consider.
Yeah, well, MRA's mission is to invest in things that will help private investment happen. So essentially to build tax base. So if we can do some of the infrastructure work, if we can help with demolition or cleanup of a property, that helps the private sector invest, and then we create more tax base. So investing in sidewalks is one way that we do that, and have done that within those districts. But we can't use that money outside of the urban renewal districts that
Gotcha.
Created.
You bet. All right, we're going to come right back. Catherine is waiting to visit with you with a question. Our guest here this morning is Jeremy Keene. He's Public Works and Mobility Director. We're talking about sidewalks in Missoula, where they come from, how they're built, how they're paid for, who pays for them. If you have a question or comment, give it, especially if you live in an area in Missoula that doesn't have a sidewalk, and you might get one. This is something you might want to know about. We're going to come right back with more after this.
Montana State News Network.
I'm Dennis Bragg. It's another example of the growing problem with urban deer in Missoula. State wildlife agents are tracking a mountain lion that's killing and caching deer in one of the city's newest neighborhoods. Montana FWP spokeswoman Vivica Krauser says people living in Miller Creek are being warned.
Just know that we've got lions around us. Usually they don't want to see us either, and so they're going to be doing their thing most of the time. If you ever were to see a lion, then you really just want to stop, make noise, make yourself as big as you can. You don't want to run or provoke anything in that way. And
Krauser says game wardens hope the mountain lion will move on rather than causing conflicts. Former Montana Highway Patrol Trooper Wade Palmer and his family are now moving into a new home in Stevensville, given a recognition of his selfless service before he was sidelined chasing a suspect in multiple murders outside Missoula. Palmer was critically injured in the 2019 shooting, but has continued to experience love and support. Retired New York Fire Battalion Chief John Carroll was in Stevensville, representing the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, which looks after injured veterans and first responders.
They are true Americans, very patriotic. Wayne served this country and served the counties of Missoula and Stevensville, and he's been part of this great state of Montana, doing what first responders do, protecting the people, and I'm proud and honored to have met him.
Palmer received MHP's Medal of Valor twice in just 8 years on patrol. Great Falls Fire is warning people to be more careful with smoking materials after fighting 3 blazes that started that way this week in less than 24 hours. Investigators say the fire on Sunday that destroyed a home ignited when someone thought they could dispose of smoking materials in pots with potting soil. That's a very dangerous practice. This is the Montana State News Network.
For more on these stories and others around Montana, download the Montana State News app.
I'm Chris Jackamick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jackamick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
I'm Ben Affleck, and I want to thank you for joining me and supporting Paralyzed Veterans of America. I joined the Navy to serve my country. While parachuting with my platoon, my parachute didn't open, and I broke my neck.
Thanks to PVA, paralyzed veterans are getting specialized medical care and treatments, the jobs they want, and the accessible vehicles and homes they need.
I just don't think my family would be as happy as they are without the support that I received from Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Learn more at PVA.org.
Okay, well, but welcome back to Talk Back. 721-1290 is our number. Peter Christian here. And, of course, Nick Christensen taking your phone calls this morning. Our guest on City Talk this morning is Jeremy Keene, Public Works and Mobility Director. We have been talking about sidewalks, and I believe Catherine is waiting on the line. Catherine, good morning. What's on your mind, please?
Good morning. This is kind of adjacent to the sidewalk issue, I guess. I've noticed an increase over the last year or two in the amount of jaywalking, specifically on Broadway between Russell and Higgins. And I drive that all the time at night, and it's dark. And I've noticed an increase in people who are just basically crossing in the middle of the street in the dark, wearing dark clothing, and one of these days somebody's going to get hit.
Somebody has been hit. Several people have been hit in that area over the years. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, I don't know if there's anything you can do about that, but it would be nice if you came up with some solution to that, because it would be, it's just increasing a lot. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, Catherine, that's a very good question because the Poverello Center is in that area. There's grocery stores, of course, the river, and people. There's the bridge that crosses the walking bridge that comes over. People go from one side of the river to the other, and then they want to get across Broadway to wherever they're going. And who needs a crosswalk? Yeah.
That seems to be the attitude. And there's no reflective clothing, so you can't see them. So.
Yeah, it's certainly
dangerous.
Certainly a concern.
Thanks, Catherine. Go ahead.
Part of what you're seeing there's just more people walking. There's more people there, and they're walking to get where they need to go because that's their transportation. All the things you talked about are important. Good lighting, good visibility for those pedestrians. What we find is that people take the shortest path. They will walk the shortest distance they can walk, and so we need to provide convenient locations for people to cross. And when we have a good frequency of crosswalks. You've seen the flashing crosswalks that we've been using, which have been really effective. Trying to get more options like that in so that people will go to a designated location and cross. But it's hard to ask somebody to walk a quarter mile out of direction to get across the street at a signal or one of those crosswalks. So the frequency is really important. And just driver awareness is important. Folks need to understand that corridor is starting to become a more urban place where you're going to see more people walking and to be paying attention for pedestrians.
Well, I will also say that Broadway itself has undergone so many improvements over the years. From the wide, they narrowed it and then they widened other parts of it and then they added street lights and some other things. And as you had mentioned, more and more businesses are down there, more and more people. Again, the Poverello Center is there, so there is some transient population. And so I think it behooves anybody who's driving on Broadway, especially if they live in Missoula, they know to keep their head on a swivel because you never know what you're going to get on Broadway, especially with pedestrians and bicycle riders.
Yeah, that's true. As things get busier and there's more of the different types of users on the street, it's just important for folks to drive a little bit slower and pay attention to those things. Broadway's not a highway anymore. It's part of our downtown street system, so we just have to take it a little slower.
And it's sometimes you get in the wrong lane when you think you're going to go this way and you have to go this way. Sometimes it can be a little confusing, especially if you're new to Missoula. Taking the right off Russell, and you're getting into those areas where, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong lane.
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of those things that, if you're trying to pay attention to all of the things going on and the lanes and make sure you're getting where you need to go, that's a challenge. And we're continuing to work on Broadway. We have other projects in the queue that will help that.
I know there's supposed to be a kind of a roundabout in that area. Is that right?
Yeah, we're working on a roundabout in the next couple of years at Broadway Tool in California, which will not only make traffic flow better, but hopefully make that a little bit safer and a little bit easier to use.
How will that work real quickly? I realize we're kind of off this topic of sidewalks here, but would it be just like a traditional roundabout where you follow the directions of the arrows or what?
Yeah, more or less. And it's a little bit of a unique geometry, so it may look more like a bean than a circle, but it'll allow for those different turning movements. There's multiple lanes on Broadway going into that intersection,
right?
And you have these other streets with just single lanes. So it'll be a pretty unique roundabout, but I think, based on the early studies we've done, it really does work pretty well.
I remember when the Broadway diet was first, if you remember that phrase, the Broadway diet was first proposed, and go, oh, are we going to be able to handle that? That sort of thing. And it seemed to work out okay.
Yeah, eventually. I think it took folks a little bit of time to get used to it. And you mentioned the lane changes.
Right.
That's probably the most challenging piece of it, is just making sure you're in the right lane at the right time.
All right. Well, we're up against a break right now. And by the way, all of our phone lines are open. If you have a question for Public Works and Mobility Director Jeremy Keene, this is City Talk. We would love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment or a suggestion, hey, give us a call at 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. Coming back right after this. One of my favorite old rock tunes was Roundabout. I think it was by the group Yes. But anyway, yes. Thank you very much. I was a DJ for a long time. But roundabouts are fascinating, and I know, being the Public Works and Mobility Director, there are certain times when a roundabout is absolutely the best way to go.
Yeah, we really like roundabouts. They work very well for safety. It tends to decrease the number of crashes that are severe injury crashes. So Love them for safety, but they also have a really great benefit for traffic flow. And it's because they work kind of organically. People show up, they wait for a gap, they slip into the roundabout, keep on going. So if there's light traffic, you don't have to sit and wait at the light.
Yeah, and that is one thing that you had mentioned during the break, is that when people are sitting there, that the traffic can really back up. And then there is a tendency, once the light turns green, to speed, to go too fast, to beat the light in case it turns red again. I mean, there are advantages to having something where there's no light to slow you down.
Yeah, roundabouts can adapt to those different traffic volumes a lot more readily than a signal can. So when traffic's heavy and things are a little bit more congested, that roundabout will slow down and things will move very slowly. And then as traffic is lighter, it can more free flow. So,
well, the phone lines are open at 721-1290 or 1-800-568-5309. How are things going on going over what used to be the Higgins Bridge, the Bear Tracks Bridge? Have they figured out how they're going to do the lanes there? Is it going to be 4 lanes, 3 lanes, or is it just kind of up in the air yet?
Yeah, well, the new bridge is working great. We really love the additional pedestrian space that was created there.
Right.
And, we're really seeing a lot of traffic on that. Ironically, one of the problems we're having with the bridge right now is there's so many bikes and pedestrians on that walkway. There's some conflicts. So, we're still working on the Downtown Sam project. That's the safety, access, and mobility project that we got a big grant for. And that will eventually convert the lane configuration on the bridge to 3 lanes. Going in and out of downtown. So those changes will be happening in the next couple of years. We're just really kicking off that project with we've just hired a consultant, and we're starting to work through some of the preliminary design on that.
One step at a time, right?
One step at a time.
You bet. All right. Well, we do have a caller on the line. This is Brian. Brian, good morning. You're on with Jeremy Keene. Go ahead. What's your question, please?
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call. So I got a question and then some comments. But my question is, in Missoula, people don't actually own the piece of property that their sidewalk is on, correct? That's part of the right-of-way?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but they still have to pay property taxes for that land, right?
No, they don't actually pay property taxes on it, but we ask them to maintain that portion of the right-of-way in front of their property.
Right, and fine them if they don't, right?
We do have fines in our ordinances for things like shoveling snow off the sidewalk.
So you force citizens to pay for a sidewalk on a piece of property they don't own and then force them to maintain it. And if they don't, you guys can come and take their home, right?
Well, it never rises to the point of taking a home. These fines are usually in the...
Never.
We got $100.
$100 or something like that. It's really...
Yeah, but if I disagree with that, like, I don't think I should have to pay for maintaining a sidewalk that isn't mine, that the city forced me to put in. If I disagree with paying that, you guys will keep fining until you come and take the house, right?
No, I don't think so.
Well, do you know who your city councilor is?
I do, yeah.
Okay, if you know the ward you live in and the city councilor who represents you, I think that would be a good question for them, for him or her or them, to say, hey, what's the deal with sidewalks? Here are my thoughts, and allow them to share theirs with you.
It's funny you should say that, because I was actually watching the public hearing where this was discussed. My ward representative brought it up and asked that very same question, and she said, so ultimately, if you don't pay your fines, that accrues, and then the government comes to your house, puts a gun to your head, and takes your property over not shoveling of a sidewalk. And she got censured for that, had to apologize, because apparently you can't say the word gun in city council. So that is what happens, is you guys would come take it for simply not shoveling a sidewalk that a person doesn't own.
Well,
but anyway, that's
to me, and I'm not a city official or anything. I'm just an old DJ, but it sounds rather harsh that someone would for not shoveling the sidewalk. Gosh, I haven't shoveled my sidewalk for 30 years, so we're going to come take your house. I don't think that is even possible.
Yeah, I can say that we've never taken anybody's house for not shoveling their sidewalk.
Go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
I'm just saying, if I ultimately disagreed with it, that is ultimately what would happen. If you don't pay your property taxes, because you guys would just fine that, and then if you don't pay, you just add it to the property taxes, like the $3,000 or $9,000 you charge them to put the sidewalk in. If you disagree with that, seeing as how you don't own the land, well, it's really no business of yours.
Now, were you listening, Brian, when Jeremy said there is an option to defer that until the property sells, and that comes out of the asking price? Is that an unfair?
Yeah, I have heard that, and I think that's a good option to have. But anyway, so moving on.
Okay.
But that's just how I view it. I think the whole situation's a little messed up because you don't own the property. The city's forcing you to do this and pay for it and maintain it, and it just seems a little unjust to me. But another problem with the sidewalks is I think the cost of it. It's outrageous how much they charge to put a little piece of concrete out in front of your house, and I think the reason for that is how the city and county operate. Like the county, you have to be the right color to get a bid job. You get a 5% bid preference if the county says you're the right color. In the city, I don't think they do that, but what they do is you have to qualify and have an apprenticeship program in your company. So really only Jackson and Knife River can put in a bid, and they know that. So they just jack their bid way up because they rarely have any competitive bids. Do you think that maybe we could drive that cost down if we just opened it up a little more to the free market and didn't have the city dictating what two companies can get the job?
Well, our bidding is open to all contractors. The apprenticeship incentive is something that they can take advantage of.
Well, hold on. Let him answer the question. Go ahead.
So we're incentivizing development of our workforce, which is something we need. So the problem is really we don't have enough contractors. We don't get enough bids on our projects, and they're busy. So everybody's busy in the market doing construction, and so we're not seeing enough contractors bidding our work to get competitive prices. So we've seen a lot of cost inflation over the past 5 years that has really affected our ability to do these projects inexpensively. And we've looked at other options. We've looked at doing that work ourselves as the city, creating our own concrete crew or creating our own ability to build these projects. We do a lot of our own work through our street division. Those are ways that we can try to save money. But at the end of the day, what we really need is a workforce. We need the contractors that can build this stuff. We need the materials to construct it. And that's really what's driving the cost.
Well, my point is, you said that you don't get a whole lot of bids on your projects, and I know why that is. As someone who puts out bids, it's because it's not worth it to go through all the time to put together a bid, and Jackson gets it because they get a bid preference from you guys. Even though they're charging more than I would, you guys still give it to them because you give them preference. You see what I'm saying?
Well, the apprenticeship program gives them a small bid preference if they have the apprentice program. Now, anybody can set up an apprentice program. It's not difficult.
Not anybody, not a person that's got a crew of 3. You can't just pay somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. And then Jackson, they don't even pay their apprentices.
Brad,
we're unpaid interns. But anyway,
we're like 2 or 3 minutes past a break. But thank you for the call. Any final comments for Brian before we go?
Just that we want to keep these projects as affordable as we can. So we are interested in the lowest possible price we can get when we bid the work.
Okay, we're going to come right back. Phone lines are open at 721-1290, 1-800-568-5309. Jeremy Keene is our guest. We've been talking about sidewalks, and now we're talking about bidding for projects and all sorts of things. So if you have a question or comment, give us a call. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, I'm Joe.
Hey, welcome back to Talkback. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. Peter Christian here. Nick Christensen taking phone calls this morning for City Talk. And our guest, Jeremy Keene, Public Works and Mobility Director. And Ed is on the line. Ed, good morning, sir. You're on with Jeremy. Go ahead, please.
Right. When we bought our house 43 years ago, somehow we knew there weren't sidewalks in there. We did it anyway. And we like what we've got. The landscaping, the house placement, and everything was put in there with the knowledge that there is no sidewalks. Now, when you put a sidewalk in, you're going to be moving walking traffic fairly close to our house. We're going to lose privacy, tell you the truth. And how wide is the a sidewalk? Is it 10 feet wide?
What varies, our standard width is 5 feet. And then as you get into commercial areas, they get a little wider.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to take 5 feet of parking away from my driveway, and I've got a truck right now sitting where it won't be able to sit if there's a sidewalk in there, because I'd be blocking the sidewalk. And also, this point of shoveling snow becomes important to me. As old as I am right now, I'm going to have to pay somebody to do that. So in any event, I'm totally against it. We're in the Wapakea area, and I can't imagine anybody there wanting this sidewalk in that neighborhood.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah,
please.
These are always challenges with the question of how do we use public right of way? What's the best use for it? And is it a sidewalk? Is it for parking? Is it for travel lanes, bike lanes? We wrestle with that every day. And so we have to take into account all those different interests. And your interest in having a place to park and not having to shovel sidewalk is something that we have to consider. And
these decisions by you and your organization are not unilateral. I mean, you want input from the people who live in these areas, right? That's why you send out messages and you send out letters and you send out, surveys and all that sort of thing, because you want people's input into this, and that's why we have you on today to give input.
Yeah, and ultimately this is a political process. So we set policy. Our city council sets policy for us to follow in the way that we implement these projects. So the council's policy has been to build complete streets, which means that those streets have things like sidewalks, street trees, boulevards, things like that.
Lights,
street lights, all the things that really go into an urban street. And I think one of the things that we're wrestling with in Missoula is we're kind of growing up. We're growing from a small town to a small city, and those kinds of changes come along with that.
And I will tell you, I live in the Miller Creek area, and there's so many homes up there, and the streets are so curvy. There is absolutely no way of putting sidewalks in those areas. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah, and sidewalks aren't appropriate everywhere. There's plenty of streets that don't need a sidewalk, and like I said earlier, this is a 100-year problem. We're not going to finish all the sidewalks in the city in my lifetime.
All right. Well, let's get Greg on the line. Greg, good morning. You're on with Jeremy Keene. Go ahead, please, sir.
Yes, I have a question about what's the thought process or what goes into designing sidewalks for an area. Specifically on Paxson Street, Bellevue Park, that whole area those sidewalks are straight with corners and everything, but you turn off of 39th onto Paxson, and there's a new sidewalk that was put in a few years ago, and it's a whole block, and it looks like a giant snake. It just doesn't match the character of the rest of the neighborhood. It looks way out of place. So I'll hang up and listen on offline.
Okay, thanks for the call.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think there's a lot that goes into designing sidewalks, and we use the phrase context sensitive, which means you have to look at what's around it and how that sidewalk is going to fit in with either the constraints, things like utility poles or irrigation ditches or steep slopes, and the adjacent land use. Is it a commercial area? Are there commercial businesses that might need more width on the sidewalk for people to walk, or is it a residential area where there's fewer people walking? So all of those things go into it. I think there's always aesthetic taste that is subjective. Some people like the curvy sidewalks, and some people like things to go straight. Really what we're looking for is a sidewalk that balances out those different needs. What we found is that when we can create a space between the sidewalk and the curb, it has a lot of benefits in terms of where we can plow snow, the amount of runoff drainage that comes off the sidewalk to the road, as well as greenery, trees, grass, things like that really reduce the heat effect of hard surfaces like concrete and asphalt. And so we're really trying to get more of those things into our streets.
And that's where that windstorm really was difficult, because it destroyed many of the trees that helped to shelter the areas you're talking about.
Yeah, our urban forest is incredibly important in terms of heat in the summer.
Right.
You can measure the difference in temperature between areas that have a tree canopy and areas that don't, and it's significant.
You bet. We're up against a break where we have Jay waiting to visit with you. Only about 8 minutes left. If you have a question for Public Works and Mobility Director Jeremy Keene with the City of Missoula, it's City Talk, by the way, with Jenny Miriam joining us here in the studio as well, Communications Director for the city. We'll come right back after this 1 minute timeout.
Winter is...
Hey, welcome back to Talk Back. 721-1290 is the number. Glad to have you along this morning. On City Talk, Jenny Miriam, of course, is bringing in wonderful guests. And today's guest is Public Works and Mobility Director Jeremy Keene. And we do have Jay on the line. Jay, good morning. You're on with Jeremy. Go ahead.
Hi. My point is this. Once the sidewalk is built, that does not complete the story. I live in the Lewis and Clark neighborhood, and I have a sidewalk in front of my house. It runs in the entire length from Higgins to Bancroft, and I see pedestrians in the roadway every day. I'm not exaggerating, every day. Now, the state of Montana says that where sidewalks are provided, it is against the law for pedestrians to be in the roadway. I think the city needs to do a better job of getting pedestrians to use the existing sidewalks instead of trying to build more sidewalks.
Jay, this is Peter. I have a question for you. Have you reported this to the city police or county sheriff's office or at any of that?
I've mentioned it to my ward members.
Okay, city council members. That's good. All right.
Yeah.
And what is their response been?
Nothing. I'm sure they got more important things to do, but
well, you're a constituent, so I would think any question would be important.
I'm sure it is, but I think it's just an attitude of the city. I mean, all I hear in the city is drivers must stop pedestrians. Drivers must stop pedestrians, and I'm not advocating for drivers to run over pedestrians, but every role has to respect every other role. Pedestrians need to respect drivers. Drivers respect pedestrians, and bicyclists, no matter what your role, you should get respect and give respect. And especially in the neighborhoods, I see pedestrians in the road where there are sidewalks, and I think that's a big part of the problem.
Jeremy, your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. I think that idea of mutual respect and everybody works together to make our system work great. We can't control what everybody does, but I think what we see is when we build good facilities, when we give people good options, they'll use them. And so, ideally we have good sidewalks and we have good streets and roads, and people can each use it to their degree.
Well, Jay, thanks.
I disagree with that.
Okay. Well, Jay,
I disagree with that. But
Go. You disagree with that?
I have a good sidewalk in front of my house, and they don't use it. So something needs to be done. There's too much in Missoula of I'll do whatever I want, and
I see. Yeah.
Whatever happens.
Okay.
Too much of what's happening.
All right. Well, thanks for letting us know. We appreciate it, Jay. Thanks for the call. I hope that gets better for you. Becky is up next. Becky, good morning. You're on Talkback. We have just a few minutes left. Go ahead. What's on your mind?
Yeah, good morning. I'm wondering if you know anything about a maintenance bond that's being asked. I have a small rental company, family-owned, local, and we just finished it, and now we're being asked to put up a large amount of money for a maintenance bond. Do you know about that?
We have in some of our projects where somebody's building a piece of public infrastructure, we require a maintenance bond for the warranty period on that work so that we make sure that if there's something that fails before that warranty is up, that we're able to have a mechanism to repair it. So I think that may be what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, and, I have the same questions about the boulevard, and that I don't own it, but I need to maintain the trees and water it and pay for the sidewalks and pay for the alley. And then on top of that, I pay incredibly huge property taxes.
Yeah,
So,
that's one of the ways that we've allocated those responsibilities, and that's a political process. That's part of our ordinances that say that the adjacent property owner maintains that boulevard and that sidewalk area. Certainly something we can change, but there's a cost to doing it either way. Either that property owner does it, or we have general city taxes that would pay to do it. So that's a decision that we can always talk about and make, but it's not free either way.
Have you spoken to your city councilor about it?
No, this is evidently a very new thing.
Okay.
It just started.
If I were you, I'd find out who they are and give them a call and explain the problem, and maybe they could come down and look at it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for the call. Because the city councilors that I know, they want to hear from their constituents. They do. That's why they're there. I mean, they are city councilors because they want to help the various wards that they live in to have, more success and be safer and all those good things. So, okay, we have 2 minutes to wrap up, Jeremy. So is there anything else that you would like to share with us about how to contact you, some of the things, new projects you're working on, things like that we can share?
Well, we always welcome your input. We don't know what we can't fix. We can't fix what we don't know.
Right. There you go.
Thank you. So please definitely reach out to us. Let us know what you're concerned about. We'll do our best to get on that. I wanted to just mention something fun we're doing. We
please
just as the holidays approach here, we thought it'd be fun to have a little bit of fun with our snow plowing fleet, and we're going to have a campaign to name our snow plows. So we're going to be asking folks to suggest names, and we'll get those names put on the snow plows. And
how many snow plows are there?
So we have 16 plows.
Wow.
Large plows and smaller pickup plows.
Right.
And so there's an opportunity. If you've got a great name for a snow plow, find us on our website or on social media and give us that idea.
Okay, give me a specific website address so that I'm sure people are going, I've got to get my kids involved, right?
I don't know if I can rattle off the whole thing.
That's okay.
If you Google City of Missoula Public Works, you will find us.
Perfect.
And we're also on Facebook and Instagram and whatever Twitter has become.
What is it? X? It's X now. Yeah. Anyway. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming in. We really appreciate it. You come back anytime.
Great. Thank you for having me.
All right. Jenny Miriam, as always, thank you, dear. Good to see you.
Thank you, Peter.
You bet. And so, Mr. Nick, as we look forward to the weekend, what's coming up on Monday's fabulous program, sir?
We'll have open phones from 8 to 8:30, and then at 8:30 we'll have the KGVO Book Club with Mirdad and Michael, and the book we're going to discuss is The Unraveling, Reflections on Politics Without Ethics, A Democracy in Crisis by Bob Bauer.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, it sounds kind of highbrow to me, but it's going to be great. And by the way, the KGVO Book Club has been an extraordinarily successful program. I thought, a book club on the radio? Well, yeah. And people call in, they read. A lot of folks, there's a lot of readers out there, and they go for it. So, anyway, get out there and enjoy this very, very nice day. And we will talk to you tomorrow. I should say, we will talk to you Monday morning at 8 o'clock for Talk Back. So, have yourselves a great weekend, and let's be safe out there.